Welcome to the stream for the day. Um, I thought we might just do it, go over the entire thing. So, first and foremost, I would like to ask everybody and anybody that is not watching what I should do in order to improve the success of this stream and channel. Because I want to do YouTube, I want to do stream and generate digital content of multifarious nature, but it's difficult to do without success, right? And if you compare, the average successful YouTube, it just seems very, very far from where I'm at. So I just want to ask people what they think, what anybody who is watching thinks I should do in order to make this a successful YouTube channel, a successful stream. In general, any thoughts at all? I'd love to hear from you. But I just figured that whatever I'm doing here, whatever I'm able to create, is going to be a representation of myself. So you're kind of tuning in here to socialize, to connect with me, and to perhaps learn some things about my perspective, and perhaps you could teach me things about your perspective and the knowledge that you have. But I have every bit of interest in. I have lots of interest in lots of different things. So first and foremost, not first and foremost, but first, there was just a couple thoughts on my mind as I was making myself coffee this morning. Number one was Jesus Christ, right? Just the frustrations that I have in relation to the reality of Jesus. In that, some guy convinced me that I should get baptized into the Anglican Church. I got baptized into the Anglican Church, and from my perspective, it's the source of a lot of ills in my life. From my perspective, the decision, haphazardly, not really taking it seriously, to quote unquote accept Jesus has been, from my perspective, it's one of the worst decisions that I've ever made. And I would side with the cosmic skeptic as well as Sam Harris in regard of the value of Jesus in a real sense. So, according to statistics, we can look up world religions. According to statistics, right, there's a huge portion of the population that consider themselves globally, that consider themselves to be Christian. So here you go. If we're looking at a pie chart of the world's religions, Christianity, Islam, 16% now declare no religion. Hinduism, Buddhism, folk religions, other religions, Sikhism, and Judaism supposedly at a 0.2%. So from my perspective, and given where I'm at as far as the material reality of my life, Christianity is interesting to consider because it is founded upon the Pentateuch, the Torah, the foundational books of the Bible that assert the Ten Commandments. Essentially preceding Jesus, you have the Ten Commandments as the most essential instructional message from God, according to those books, right? I think in a serious way, you're much better off to side with materialism, scientific materialism, and consciousness. Just call it, the word is consciousness. If we evolve into the Matrix and the Matrix becomes a person, then you're that person, right? Then to get concerned with any of the other things, any of the other paradigms or perspectives. So on a serious note, I wear a Jesus muscle shirt, I talk about Jesus, but I really truly believe that You have scientific materialism, physicalist scientific, quantifiable mathematical logic, and you have consciousness. Need say nothing else. The Matrix machine exists, and you're the video game Matrix simulation thing. That's what this is. So, those are the two things that I truly believe are the most accurate representations of reality. Just because if you're making decisions based upon scientific materialist logic, there are many instances where, number one, you can't calculate the amount of variables that would apply to a successful that would apply to a successful anticipation of the reality of that. And there are always going to be variables that escape your ability to calculate. And no matter how many quantum supercomputers you're able to develop in the effort to simulate some kind of future state based upon the existing state, there will always be variables that escape your logic and cause the outcome to be different than the computer anticipated. So that's what I truly think is the most accurate representation of reality, because Christianity would have us believing that God and Satan are two entities. God created Satan, but Satan is evil and God is good. So God is good, and then, like according to these Christian people, God is good, and so he creates the most evil entity ever in order to torture people, in order to cause us not to be in a nice paradisical world. If I'm supposedly good, why am I creating the evil? So according to the Christian paradigm, that's reality, and that God and Satan are battling for my soul. And from my perspective, it's just because of a submissiveness. We can look at it through a scientific perspective. Christianity leads to a successful working class. The working class then fuel the economy, and the society flourishes due to the fact that people are still able to procreate when they're economically disadvantaged and enslaved. And so the society propagates and perpetuates itself based upon physical might and people who are duped. And that's, I think, equally reasonable to explain all that we experience. But Christianity is the number one, is the point that I'm trying to make here. So Christianity is the number one religion, and that's something. That's a very significant socio-economic, sociological factor. One can appreciate the scientific implications of 31% of the Earth's population declaring themselves to be Christian, as well as the American Protestant Christian political situation where Joe Biden's Catholic, so Joe Biden claims that he's a Christian believer, and he's the president of the United States. But this is what I'm talking about. According to the Bible, according to the words of Jesus in the Bible, then Joe Biden is supposed to be not. Jesus essentially explicitly says that when bad things happen, that's good, and when good things happen, that's bad. I think that's not necessary. When bad things happen, it's bad. When good things happen, it's good. When you suffer misfortune, that's bad. It's bad on many levels. It's important to note that not everyone who suffers misfortune is deemed with misfortune because they did something to cause that. There are innocent people who are the victims of fate. Why don't we just say it that way rather than the way that Jesus says it in a convoluted, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages of mindless stuff? Sometimes bad things happen to innocent people. Sometimes the innocent are punished and suffer. That's the reality of this world. We don't need to say that you'll be blessed in heaven. And the whole, you'll experience hardships in life and you'll be rewarded in the next life. To me, that just says that in some ways reconciliation occurs through other things that you valued. So I was never able to start a family and have children, but I was the number one YouTuber on earth. Like that seems to be a certain balance in the world. However, I would say that um, that doesn't always occur, and it's the instances where that doesn't always occur. Where the reconciliation does not take place, where people are entirely the victims of fate. There is no reconciliation. There is no positive pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. There's nothing. It's just bad. That happens too, and that happens to innocent people too, where innocent people are just entirely the victims of either other people or the victims of the chaos of existence. I think we can observe this when young people are diagnosed with terminal cancer and die. I'm 15 years old. I'm very hopeful for my future, and I'm doing everything that I can do to live a good, healthy life. And I'm diagnosed with terminal cancer, and I'm dead by the time I'm 17, and that's my life. That happens in scientific reality. And then Christianity says that they'll go to heaven. Well, they don't have to deal with any of the frustrations of adult life. They don't have to endure the hardships that accompany all of the extra time spent on earth. I can agree with that. So in some sense, there's a metaphorical truth. But when we're concerned with literal, technical truth, I think we can make progress toward things that are literally and technically improvements, that are literally and technically able to alleviate suffering. And so it is this distraction on behalf of a huge amount of people that consider themselves, according to the statistical data, to be Christians, that if they are concerned more with literal technical truth and literal technical progress, without becoming distracted upon things that at the end of the day are a convoluted mess of words and metaphors that can be interpreted in a multitude of inaccurate ways. Like, judge not lest ye be judged. Is Jesus talking entirely to judges within society? You should not become a judge, according to Jesus, because I'll damn you in some kind of way. So judge, or is he saying, everybody should not relate to other people in a way that is judgmental? You shouldn't look at your fellow human being, and there's other verses in the Bible where Jesus talks about not calling your fellow human being but he says man, a fool, because if you say that, if you look at me and you say you're a fool because you're not doing something right, or like I would do something differently, you're not actually privy to the reality of my circumstance. You may deem me a fool because of your subjective analysis of me, but you're in no place to judge, and perhaps you're not observing the foolishness within yourself, and you're not actually acknowledging your own shortcomings. So yeah, I just think that, on some level, after becoming involved in this through a Protestant Christian baptism, so I was baptized into the Protestant Christian Church, I feel as though there are a number of different things that happen to me. If it's here's how I describe it. If it's the simulation, if I'm the Matrix machine simulation, and in the Matrix machine simulation, the guy decides to get baptized, then the Matrix machine simulation operates according to like the farcical Christian baptism simulation, which is whack. And that's why I don't like it. Because if I could establish tabula rasa of consciousness, where we're just pure consciousness, then I should be able to shape it into what I want it to be. But because in the simulation the guy already agreed to live according to Jesus, then all of a sudden there's all of this stupid stuff that accompanies it. Like, he can't be the richest man on earth because Jesus says that that's wrong. But I would rather be the richest man on earth because technically that's the truth. Technically, um, if the money is so unimportant, Jesus, then why don't you just give me the money that I want so very much? So as soon as you play that card to Jesus, then Jesus all of a sudden gets shifty and he says, well, I can't give you the money because blah blah blah. So, I know Jesus pretty well, and at the end of the day, he's a liar. Jesus lies, and the truth is that people aren't always horrible, disgusting materialists. Even the materialists, even Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, sometimes give to charity. They sometimes decide to be friendly. Sometimes. They decide to be friendly guys. That happens. And for that margin of human decision, human activity, then there are decent days in life sometimes. Right? But that does not mean that when you die, you go to like a paradisical, independently existing post-life state. That to me seems very inaccurate. There is so much that accompanies life, especially within the modern context, that I think if there is a god or a matrix machine that created the universe, they'd probably allow us to have a little break from all of the occupations of life, where like we're going to give you a little rest there. You know what I mean? You've had a very active time out, and now it is time to have no consciousness. If I was the architect of the universe, I might do that. So, from my experience, psychedelics offer us a lot of mystical insight, and like perhaps if we ever experience divine mystical states in life through the ingestion of psychedelic compounds or through other or great sex, like if we were to have like a day where we have like your partner and you have the best sex you've ever had. So it's those like those really great things that can accompany life that reconcile us with survival of the fittest, tooth and claw competition, murder, rape, carnage. So that's pretty much how I see existence in reality, is that it's justified existence, suffering, if we're looking to a god or something like that. You could call the Matrix machine God, but do we understand God's logic, right? So as far as I'm concerned, God's logic is that it's, there's some good things. There's good days. There's great sex. There's amazing music and song and dance. Sometimes. But I would say in comparison to what could be, it's an insufferably small margin. If I could see to it the great sex and the song and dance and the fun would be a much greater part of life. And that's the antithesis of Christianity. And now when we look at this list and we look at Judaism, I just want to say, in my experiences in Judaism, the people are very reasonable. They seem good people. And they seem to take, in a conservative Judaism context, not an Orthodox Judaism context, in a conservative, modern Judaism context, they seem to, number one, they don't hate Christian people. But if we're looking toward mystical things that can't be quantified, a shorter book with less rules, more concise, would be optimal. And I think there are ontological and epistemological things that accompany a monotheistic faith that are important. Like if we're looking at Buddhism, there's a number of ontological assertions made in Buddhism that monotheism perhaps more accurately describes. So yeah, that's just one thing that's on my mind. And then you got the cosmic skeptic who's talked at great lengths about this. Uh, Although I strongly disagree with some of the prioritization that he makes with regard to Christianity's biggest problem. He says that Christianity's biggest problem is the problem of animals suffering. Christianity's biggest problem is the problem of animals suffering. No, I don't think so. In my opinion, I respect the guy's intellect. I listen to him. You know, I listen to a lot of his content. He's a cool kid, but like, in my opinion, Christianity's biggest problem is that it distracts people from curing cancer in many ways. It misappropriates huge sums of capital resource into the pockets of swindlers, and it just generally sends us off course toward utilitarian values. I'm a utilitarian. I'm a utilitarian. I believe in the Matrix, or simulation theory and science, or consciousness and science. And so what else is there? Okay, there's a number of other just short things that I'm going to comb over here. As far as the whole crypto, okay, we're supposed to be on crypto here. So once again, as far as crypto is concerned, I would give props to Financial Education, the channel, Coin Bureau, Brian Young, Charlie Chang, Bloomberg Technology, and then lately I've been watching this Matthew Ho, Yahoo Finance, and of course I must give mad props to Mr. Linus Tech Tips, even though he's never liked any of my tweets. He's a local Vancouver guy, and Linus Sebastian is really he's the best tech reviewer. I like Marcus Brownlee, who's technically the number one, but hey, we got some celebrity tech trivia that looks entertaining. But like, Linus is really the only person that I know that's been able to achieve this level in tech sector reviewing, and he touches on lots of really important stuff. And he's my fellow Vancouverite. So that's my list of. I mean, we could watch portions of all of these, but that's my list of crypto market analysis at present juncture. If there's anything to add there, as far as stuff I was talking about before. So this is about the 12 fastest supercomputers in the world, which I guess I mentioned on a previous stream. I said that the two top supercomputers were developed by the Chinese, which may have been true a little while ago, but as of right now, this article says that the top two supercomputers are now American again. So I think there's that. It's like the space race. It's the computation race in the modern context, and let's read.
12 fastest supercomputers in the world in 2021. For most of us, a computer probably seems fast enough if it can run 8K videos or the latest version of Far Cry in 60 frames per second without slowing down. However, there are many complicated tasks that require billions of calculations per second, something a desktop with i9 processor can't do. That's where supercomputers come in handy. They offer a high level of performance that allows governments and organizations to solve problems that wouldn't be possible with conventional computers. Today's supercomputers are built with AI, artificial intelligence, workloads in mind. In addition to weather forecasting, climate research, physical simulations, and oil and gas exploration, supercomputers help scientists discover more resilient building materials and study humans' proteins and cellular systems at an extreme level of detail.
So one might look at this channel and say, why are you concerned with this kind of thing? And it's because as soon as you look at a computer screen, AI and this level of computation will have the ability to do anything. So if you're sitting all day modeling photorealistic architectural renders in a CG application. If you're working in sound design in Ableton, I anticipate that the AI will reach, or if you're playing Apex Legends, the AI will reach a level where it is able to do all of these things very, very quickly. And so I think that's an interesting dimension. The acknowledgement of the supremacy of what will be, but is not, right? And that's the important thing that I want to establish here. Siri is a good place to look for a standard capability on behalf of artificial intelligence. If I ask Siri, how many billionaires are there? Or Cortana. But like, let's look at Cortana here. Like, can we have, so here, we're going to open up the Cortana app. And I'm going to say, Cortana, how many people are playing Apex Legends right now? How many people on Earth are playing Apex Legends right now, Cortana, in-game? So we're going to do this. We're going to, over the long haul, some of what this channel will be about is taking the multitude of AI platforms, the multitude of offerings on behalf of the market, looking into them from a consumer point of view, assessing their absolute capabilities and value, and then just kind of waxing on that. And in addition to the other stuff. But I think that's an interesting dimension of modern markets and important to consider, given that every other thing that you're doing is in relation to the capabilities of AI as such. Everything that you're going to do at a computer, and perhaps later on, once the robotics facets, like agile robotics, have progressed to such a level, every physical act that you're going to do. The far-reaching implications are infinite, right? The far-reaching potential is very significant. The current state is exactly what it is. And it's understanding that. It's understanding the claims to the importance of AI and the actual real-world experiential value of the AI. GPT-3 is a good example. So there are these modules, there are these specific applications that are being developed by companies like OpenAI and others that are doing a subset of work. GPT-3 is a natural language processing module. This actually, there's a lot of people.
Thanks to CuriosityStream for supporting
There's a lot of people that look into it and cover it, but I think this girl has done a pretty good job.
my channel. Get Nebula for free when you sign up for CuriosityStream using the link in the description. Let's talk about GPT-3. For those who don't know, GPT-3 is a massive language model that was developed by OpenAI in early 2020.
So there's lots of people like this, and there's other groups that I was watching. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, if Siri does things in some contexts better than GPT-3, and GPT-3 is a closed off offering, so like in order to get it, you have to apply to OpenAI. OpenAI has to sanctify you and then send you the connection to it, or send you the entire programming, all of the code, in order to run it on whatever you have to run it on. So yeah, ultimately, what's the value of that? If we spend all day focusing on the abstraction of programming an artificially intelligent language processing, generative, pre-trained transformer, um, that's less efficient than just writing an article. Plus, one might derive some pleasure from the human action of composing language in writing, or a YouTube vlog or something like that. There's purpose. So the development of AI to subvert the need for human existence, human consciousness, is an abstraction. And again, I restate, UI and UX, the user interface, what I directly encounter as a human flesh, body, and consciousness, the interface, and the experience of using that interface are not what the abstraction is. Those two very direct, immediate things. As long as I'm conscious, I'm always going to have consciousness, unless I'm asleep. But as long as I'm around, I'm always going to have to occupy my mind in one way or another. That's what it means to be existing. And so we need not do away with that. We just need to optimize that. And there's more direct ways than the abstraction of programming what we're calling AI. So I would like to be corrected by anybody who feels any differently. You know, I would like to have a debate about this, and we can have a debate right here on the stream. But agile robotics, the ability to manipulate physical objects on behalf of an artificially intelligent entity, an artificially intelligent piece of programming computer, that's not what we're talking about in terms of cognition, in terms of like artificially simulating consciousness, which is what a lot of what it's about. A lot of AI development is trying to simulate every facet of the human mind, every capability. And then the physical capabilities, that's robotics. That's agile robotics. I'm not saying that agile robotics is important. Agile robotics is amazing. We can automate all physical processes and prevent human beings from needing to do any kind of undesirable labor. Human beings can do labor as they so desire. Human beings can enjoy the pleasures of life free of any necessity for labor at all on behalf of their physical body, if we bring agile robotics to a level of completion. Boston Dynamics, and there are other companies as well. There's enough agility, I don't know what it's called. So that's not technically the same thing as like the AGI. Correct me if I'm wrong. One might consider it a facet. One might consider the abilities of agile robotics, the development of robotic technology in the modern context, a facet of AI. I would say it's separate. I would. This is going to be my formal thesis. So, the distinction between artificial general intelligence and the emulation of human psyche and useful technology. That's going to be my thesis statement. So, yeah. There's oh, it was my feed. There was a great article a little bit earlier on. Ooh, so let's watch some Elon.
Ladies and gentlemen, hello. It is an absolute pleasure to be with you in person this afternoon. And hello to all those watching online too. Thank you very much for joining us. My name is...
Okay, I'm just going to set this up, and we're just going to rock this just a little bit here. So, dink, dink, dink.
The keynote we've all been waiting for at MWC 21. This year seems particularly appropriate to welcome Elon Musk to MWC. After defying all conventions in the banking industry, the auto industry, and the aerospace industry, markets many felt were impossible to transform, Elon Musk now plans to do the same with the connectivity industry. SpaceX is leveraging its experience in building rockets and spacecraft, aiming to launch the world's most advanced broadband internet system. Please welcome Mr. Elon Musk. Elon, it is great to see you. A very warm welcome from MWC. I would also like to start, Elon, by wishing you, on behalf of everyone here at MWC, a very happy and somewhat belated 50th birthday. Happy birthday for yesterday, Elon.
Thank you.
Elon, we're going to talk, obviously, about SpaceX, the wider goals for SpaceX. Before we do that, I would love to focus on Starlink. Now, this is a plan to provide the world with broadband coverage via satellites. You've actually compared the project to rebuilding the internet in space. You're an engineer at heart, Elon. What has driven you to take on this new challenge?
Well, there's a need for connectivity in places that don't have it right now, or where it is connectivity is very limited or very expensive. But at many parts of the world, like I said, it's simply not available. So you can think of Starlink as filling in the gaps between 5G and fiber, and really getting to the parts of the world that are the hardest to reach, the most difficult to reach, 3%, possibly 5%. And I think it really quite nicely complements fiber and 5G.
Nice complementary technology, you're saying, and we'll dive a bit deeper into that. Elon, first of all, give us a bit of a kind of high-level overview as to how far progressed Starlink actually is. What have you done so far?
So we've launched and now have active over 1,500 satellites.
So yeah, I mean, this is just on Starlink specifically, which I've seen good reviews of. So it's an important facet, I think, globally. Seems like a good product. Here's an older article that I thought we could read. So we can read this article on the top 5 nations instead.
Original text. Contribute a better translation. Original text. Contribute a better translation.
Top 5 countries in AI development.
Original text. Contribute a better translation. Original text. Contribute a better translation. United States of America. The time of artificial intelligence has arrived years back and is changing everything from healthcare services to transportation to assembling. America has for quite some time been the worldwide pioneer in this new era of AI and is ready to keep up this leadership going ahead in view of its solid innovation environment. Understanding the maximum capacity of AI for the nation requires the joint efforts of industry, academia, and government. The administration has been dynamic in creating policies and deploying strategies that accelerate AI development in the US to assist the American individuals. These activities line up with a few regions of accentuation: AI for American innovation, AI for American industry, AI for the American worker, and AI with American values. The AI.government site gives an entrance to exploring these activities' profundity and fills in as an asset for the individuals who need to become familiar with how to make the most of the opportunities of AI.
Okay, so we'll look into that. I've never been to the AI.gov site. Sounds very, very important.
Ari. On February 11, 2019, President Trump signed Executive Order 13859 reporting the American AI Initiative, the United States National Strategy on Artificial Intelligence. This procedure is a deliberate effort to advance and ensure national AI innovation and development. The initiative deploys a whole-of-government system in collaboration and commitment with the private sector, academia, general society, and similar global partners. China. The Chinese have a very public, deep, very well-supported commitment to AI. According to Air Force General Vera Lynn Jameson, we gauge the total spending on artificial intelligence frameworks in China in 2017 was $12 billion. We additionally gauge that it will develop to at any rate $70 billion by 2020. According to the Obama White House report in 2016, China publishes more journal articles on deep learning than the US and has expanded its number of AI patents by 200%. China is resolved to be the world head in AI by 2030. Lately, the China Food and Drug Administration included AI diagnostic instruments on its rundown of allowed medicinal devices. In May, China built up a National Chinese Intelligent Medicine Association as a platform for research, exchange and participation in AI for human services. Utilizing AI deep learning on how to process medicinal pictures, for example, CT scans and X-rays, is especially hot among China's new companies. Radiology divisions at top Chinese medical clinics routinely handle a huge number of scanned pictures every day. Artificial intelligence deep learning is now used to analyze and feature anomalies. Among huge players, Alibaba's health unit utilizes AI to translate CT scans, and Tencent's Miaying utilizes AI to identify early indications of cancer. Germany. The most published research papers on AI is in Germany. Between 2011 to 2015, the number remained at about 8,000. Germany, similar to China, likewise plans to turn into a leading center for artificial intelligence. As indicated by an Foot article, Germany's Max Planck Society, 2 technical colleges, and its leading exporting state are joining their artificial research intelligence together with organizations like Porsche, Daimler, and Bosch. The Cyber Valley, as they call it, is the after effect of this, and it has even gotten help from Amazon, who intends to open a lab there. The German government will concentrate on measures that will empower German organizations irrespective of the size, from new companies to SMEs to large corporations, not exclusively to utilize AI applications, yet in addition to create them and incorporate them into their business processes. The federal government will set new driving forces for the stimulation of the startup dynamics for AI-based plans of action and products. The key issue here is to improve access to venture capital as a whole, Yet in addition, and particularly in the development stage, which is frequently especially capital-intensive for AI-based business models. To this end, the government will make explicit incentives for financial investors and support and promote an essentially higher number of spin-offs from research. India. India has adopted an exceptional strategy to its national AI strategy by concentrating on how the country can use AI for economic development, yet additionally for social consideration. Niti Aayog, the government think tank that composed the report, calls this methodology #AI for all. The methodology, accordingly, plans to 1. Improve and enable Indians with the abilities to secure quality jobs, 2. Put resources into research and sectors that can amplify economic development and social impact, and 3. Scale Indian-made AI answers for the rest of the developing world. As a nation, India has been, lately, concentrating on research but is still a long way from making up for lost time with the world pioneers. With time, the government is going to play a fundamental role in advancing AI and research on AI, big data and cloud computing. The government can utilize big data and artificial intelligence to discover trends and patterns to hail accounts with sizable black money deposits. Another zone is the agricultural part, which contributes a sizable add up to the gross domestic product, GDP, and is a considerable workforce in the nation. In any case, as of late this sector has seen a decrease and AI can help come up with systems that can be applied progressively.
Canada, which is my country, the country in which I live, is number 5. So that's good. I'm glad to see that Canada is doing that well. And we only have 30 some odd 40 million people here in Canada. The United States has 10 times that amount, and India and China have more than 10 times that amount, 20, 30 times that amount, respectively. So even with our small population, we're that tech savvy. That's good. That's really good to hear. Canada was the first nation to release a national AI methodology, point by point. In 2017, government spending, the Pan-Canadian Artificial Intelligence Strategy is a 5-year, $125 million intended to put resources into AI research and talent. Canada's AI strategy is particular from different strategies since it is essentially a research and ability methodology. It drives the new AI Institute's CIFAR chairs in AI, and the National AI Program are altogether outfitted toward improving Canada's universal profile as a pioneer in AI research and training. The CIFAR AI and the Society program analyzes the policy and moral implications of AI, yet the overall methodology does exclude the approaches found in different strategies. So I'll try to contact the CIFAR through Twitter and stuff like that.